ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today. Subscribe at iltv.tv and watch from any device. In other news, Israel tightening its borders as the first few locally infected cases of the Omicron coronavirus are confirmed. More than 2 years and 3 vaccinations since the start of the pandemic, however, many Israelis are feeling the hurt from these closures and immigrants seemingly hurting more. The ever-shifting restrictions preventing Israeli olim from sharing their most treasured life experiences with their families, experiences like weddings, births, bar and bat mitzvot, and much more. So what is being done and what can be done about this issue? With the details is founder and director of government relations for Yad La'olim, Rabbi Dov Lipman. Rabbi, thank you so much for being with us now. How bad is the situation exactly right now?
It's pretty difficult out there. You have to remember, Aaron, this is on the heels of this big announcement about it opening in November, which people were waiting for so long. And then that was just beginning to start and people were actually coming. The system was beginning to work. And then because of this variant, things have really shut down. And the process for an exception, right now, the rule is you can't come. If you're not an Israeli or have a visa status in Israel, you can't come. It's a total ban. And they have exceptions in limited circumstances, which are very, very difficult to obtain. So emergencies of a mental health or physical health nature, weddings for first-degree relatives, supposedly, bar bat mitzvahs, supposedly. We're in the middle of a major battle right now to allow parents to come in when their children are giving birth, to be there for the birth of grandchildren. Here in this building, in the Knesset where I am, that's where I'm spending my time trying to just give a sense to the members of Knesset, the ministers, for the pain. There's no other word I can use that the immigrant community and their families are feeling in the wake of all of this. So we're lobbying hard, advocating for a balance between protecting public health and humanitarian needs and opening things up for those who need it. But it's a real challenge right now, and people are definitely suffering.
All right. Well, so speaking of, you mentioned just now a moment ago, pregnant women and some of the victims, you could call it, to this policy. And you recently produced a video of pregnant and soon to be expecting mothers, and you sent it over to the Interior Ministry. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So we were getting so many requests for help from mothers. I mean, my wife and I were blessed to become grandparents a few months ago. We were there with our children for the birth. And I have to tell you, in one of them in particular, if we hadn't been there, they would not have been able to manage various things that were going on. And these women and their husbands were turning to us. And I just realized there's nothing more humanitarian than this. We talked about maybe doing a demonstration. And then they said, Dov, we're 9 months pregnant. We can't come to a demonstration. So we had the idea of this virtual video, which we're seeing clips of right now. And it was the women's idea to say in the video, the government is allowing Miss Universe pageant to take place in Israel, which is the government's choice to make. But they basically said, Minister Shaked, who's the interior minister who could make this decision, my mother is also beautiful. Now can she come to Israel to be for my birth? And they produced this video. We produced this video with all these women who came forward to be part of it. And it went viral online. It went viral on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Twitter, and also got to government officials as well. It was picked up by mainstream media throughout Israel. And we're in the middle of a real crunch time of this battle for the Minister of Interior to say, we will allow an exception for parents of people who are having children, because we believe that, yes, public health is important to worry about, but if you're allowing Miss Universe and the flag football championship, and I understand those are all things that Israel wants to have happen, then you definitely, on the top of the list, should be putting parents of families that are giving birth, whether it's the first birth and they need the support of a loving parent during that experience, or if it's they've already have other children and they need someone to help with those children. These are things that native Israelis aren't suffering through, and these olim, these immigrants really are. And therefore, we at Yad La'olim are at the forefront of this battle, and we will not stop until we get this exception to be made for these families.
So what effect are you having so far, this pressure campaign on the Interior Ministry and on other members of government? What kind of effect or response are you getting?
It's fascinating that almost everyone that you speak to says, I support you. This makes sense. And now it's a question of, so who has the ultimate decision to allow for this? They have this allowance for weddings. They have this allowance for bar bat mitzvahs. And, I want to know who's the committee that's sitting and discussing this, because I think we can all agree that in terms of a humanitarian need, the greatest example is the actual births. Weddings are wonderful. Bar mitzvahs certainly want people to enjoy and celebrate together. But if we're trying to assess humanitarian needs, the births, it has to happen. So people are receptive to it, but we just have to keep pushing. This is the way advocating works. Try to connect all the dots and reach the point where a final decision is made and this allowance is in place. But we're also working very hard for when the ban ends, whenever that is, for the allowances to be much greater and for the system to be easier for immigrants and their families so that people don't have to go through such bureaucratic struggles and challenges for the most basic right of their family members coming and visiting them in Israel.
All right, Rabbi Lipman, good luck on your efforts, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Aaron.